If they didn't have this mindset, they'd still be as poor as us. In this video, you'll discover 5 people who started with nothing: poverty, rejection, and zero support. But with one thing: a different mindset. They rewrote their destinies. And what about you? Don't blink, because the first story will blow your mind. Jan Koum, WhatsApp. This man used to survive on food stamps. He mopped floors, cleaned houses, and didn't even own a personal computer. If he didn't believe in technology and think differently, WhatsApp wouldn't exist today. This is Jan Koum, a billionaire who started in a government-subsidized apartment. Jan Koum is not a superhero. From Ukraine to nothing, a boy with no home. Jan Koum was born in 1976 in a small rural village near Kiev, Ukraine, then part of the Soviet Union. His family was Jewish. And that meant they lived with fear. Anti-Semitism was real. His parents worried constantly about surveillance, censorship, and being marked as outsiders. They didn't have much. No hot water. No reliable electricity. No phone. No sense of security. Jan grew up quiet, observant, and aware that their life was fragile. When he was 16, his mother decided they had to leave. She and Jan emigrated to the United States. His father stayed behind, hoping to join them later, but he never made it. He died a few years later, still in Ukraine. In the U.S., Jan and his mother settled in Mountain View, California, the heart of what would become Silicon Valley. But for them, it wasn't an opportunity. It was survival. They lived in a small apartment, supported by food stamps and public assistance. His mother took work cleaning houses. Jan swept the floors at a grocery store. They couldn't afford a phone. They had no car. No support network. Just the two of them and a determination to make something better. Then, his mother was diagnosed with cancer. Jan became her caregiver, while trying to stay in school and earn what little money he could. This was his introduction to America. Poverty, illness, and uncertainty. But in that struggle, he found something else. Libraries. Free knowledge. Public internet access. And for a boy who once had nothing, that was the beginning of everything. Learning without money, the power of libraries and code. Jan Koum didn't grow up with toys or video games. He didn't have gadgets or computers at home. But he had one thing: access to a public library. That library, just a few blocks from his apartment, became his school. It had free internet, free books, and no one cared if you were poor, foreign, or didn't speak perfect English. He began reading everything he could find about computers, networking, encryption, programming languages like C and C++. He taught himself how systems worked from the inside out. No formal teacher. No curriculum. Just curiosity and consistency. While other kids his age played sports or went out, Jan spent evenings writing code on borrowed terminals. He'd read, test, break things, start over. He also joined hacker groups, not to cause harm, but to explore systems. To learn how the web worked beneath the surface. He wasn't interested in making money. He was obsessed with understanding. He enrolled at San Jose State University, but didn't stay long. School was slow. He wanted to build things, not just study them. Jan's early life was unstable, but his focus was not. He had learned a truth few ever understand. If you have access to information and the will to learn, you can build yourself from nothing. And that's exactly what he was doing, one line of code at a time. Getting into tech, Yahoo, and the first opportunity. In the late 1990s, the tech world was exploding. The internet was new, messy, and full of possibilities. Jan Koum had no degree. No polished resume. But he had skills, real ones. In 1997, he applied for a job at Yahoo. He passed the interview. Why? Because he could solve problems that others couldn't. He understood systems at a deep level. He was calm under pressure. Precise. Efficient. Yahoo hired him as an infrastructure engineer. His job: help build and maintain the back-end systems that supported millions of users. It wasn't glamorous. It was demanding. And Jan thrived. He didn't seek attention. He showed up. He worked late. He fixed what others couldn't. At Yahoo, he met Brian Acton, another engineer who shared his practical mindset. They became close. Worked on problems together. Respected each other's discipline and values. For the next 9 years, Jan stayed at Yahoo. While others jumped to hot startups or chased quick exits, he stayed. He learned. He saw what worked at scale. What failed under pressure. How companies grow and where they go wrong. And though he was now earning good money, he never changed his lifestyle. He still lived simply. Still valued privacy. Still stayed out of the spotlight. He had a stable job. A strong reputation. But deep down, something was missing. He hadn't built something of his own. And that quiet hunger to create, not just maintain, was starting to grow. A break in a dream, from unemployment to WhatsApp idea. By 2007, Jan Koum had been at Yahoo for nearly a decade. He was tired. He didn't want to fix bugs or manage systems anymore. He wanted freedom and space to think, to explore, to reset. So, he quit. No plan. No startup idea. Just a break. He traveled for a while. Take long walks. Live simply. But when he returned, something unexpected happened. He applied for jobs at Facebook, at Twitter, and was rejected. Despite all his experience, he was now just an unemployed engineer. He moved back to his modest apartment. Sat in silence. And wondered what to do next. Then, in early 2009, he bought his first iPhone. That device and the App Store changed everything. He realized something powerful. This phone was personal. It was always with you. It connected people instantly. But there was a problem. Most communication apps were noisy. They asked for data. They showed ads. They felt like platforms, not tools. Jan had a different vision. What if you could just say what you need to say? No profiles. No ads. No games. Just messages, fast, secure, and simple. The idea was basic. A phone book-based messaging app. One that just worked. And respected your privacy. He told his friend Brian Acton. Together, they started building. In that same small apartment. No funding. No office. Just code, coffee. And a mission. Make messaging simple. Make privacy sacred. And never sell user data. That idea became WhatsApp. WhatsApp, built on simplicity and privacy. From day one, WhatsApp had one rule. No ads. No games. No gimmicks. Jan Koum believed messaging should feel like talking, not like being marketed to. He and Brian Acton built the first version of WhatsApp to be lightweight and fast. It didn't have profile pictures, statuses, or group features. It didn't ask for your birthday, location, or interests. It simply reads your phone contacts and lets you send a message instantly. The design was plain. The logo was basic. But it worked. And most importantly, it respected people's privacy. Jan had grown up in a country where phone calls were monitored. Where speech was not always free. So he made it his mission. WhatsApp would never collect user data. Would never store messages. Would never track you. Every time investors asked to add advertising, Jan said no. Every time someone suggested data mining, he refused. They weren't trying to build the next Facebook. They were trying to build the most private, reliable messenger in the world. WhatsApp grew not through marketing, but by word of mouth. Immigrant communities used it to stay in touch. Families across countries relied on it to share news. Friends used it because it was simple and it worked. By 2011, WhatsApp had over 100 million users. Still no ads. Still just a handful of engineers. Still running on one philosophy: serve the user. Don't exploit them. Koum wasn't chasing hype. He was building trust. And in a noisy world, that made all the difference. Explosive growth without hype. WhatsApp didn't have a PR team. No press events. No marketing budget. It didn't need any. People discovered it. Then they shared it. Then they relied on it. WhatsApp spread like wildfire across continents. In Brazil, it became the primary way for families to communicate. In India, it replaced SMS almost overnight. In Europe, it became the go-to app for friend groups and businesses alike. Why? Because it just worked. It was faster than email, more private than Facebook, and cheaper than texting. By 2013, WhatsApp was adding over 1 million new users per day. Yet the team remained small, fewer than 50 people running an app used by hundreds of millions. There were no pop-ups, no banners, no feeds. Just clean, fast messaging on a mission to stay free from manipulation. Koum ran the company like he lived his life. Quietly. Efficiently. No distractions. He rejected investor money that came with strings. He refused to bend his principles for growth. Even as competitors copied features, added gimmicks, or chased the next trend, WhatsApp stayed true to one thing: let people talk, without interference. And then came the moment that shocked the tech world. In 2014, Facebook offered to buy WhatsApp for $19 billion, one of the largest tech acquisitions in history. Koum agreed. But with one condition: privacy must stay. Leaving Facebook and protecting his vision. When Koum sold WhatsApp to Facebook in 2014 for $19 billion, it wasn't just a business deal. It was a test of values. As part of the agreement, Jan joined Facebook's board of directors. He was now a billionaire. But his principles hadn't changed. He made it clear: no ads. No data collection. No tracking. At first, Facebook promised to honor that. But over time, things shifted. Facebook's business model was built on advertising. Data was the fuel. And WhatsApp, with over 1 billion users, was a tempting resource. Facebook began suggesting changes. More integration. More data sharing. New features that violated WhatsApp's original promise of privacy. Jan pushed back. He fought to keep messages encrypted. He resisted efforts to weaken user protections. He reminded everyone: respect for privacy is not negotiable. But the pressure kept mounting. By 2018, Jan had had enough. He resigned from Facebook. Walked away from the company he had built. Left behind hundreds of millions in unvested stock. Because no amount of money could justify breaking trust. After leaving, Jan quietly donated hundreds of millions of dollars to causes he believed in, including privacy rights, education, and tech ethics. He didn't speak publicly. He didn't blame anyone. He simply exited on his terms. And in doing so, he proved something rare. It's possible to win in tech without selling out your values. How you can think like Koum. Koum didn't build WhatsApp to get rich. He built it to solve a real problem with clarity, focus, and integrity. You don't need millions of dollars to start. You don't need investors. You don't even need a degree. What you need is how Koum thinks. 1. Solve a real problem, not a trend. Koum didn't chase the next hot thing. He didn't build a platform. He built a tool, simple, quiet, essential. Ask yourself, what problem annoys you? Can you fix it in the simplest possible way? 2. Stay small. Think clearly. WhatsApp didn't need a big team. It needed a focused team. More people, more meetings, more distractions, they don't always help. Keep your vision tight. Your team sharp. Your execution is clean. 3. Make privacy a principle, not a feature. Koum's greatest asset wasn't encryption, it was trust. He didn't add privacy. He designed it. When you protect people's trust, they reward you with loyalty. 4. Let your product speak. No ads. No press tours. No fake hype. WhatsApp grew because people loved it, not because someone marketed it. Build something people can't help but tell others about. 5. Walk away when values are threatened. The hardest decisions come when success tempts you to compromise. Jan Koum walked away from billions because he valued his vision more than his stock. Know your non-negotiables and defend them no matter the price. Final thought. Jan Koum was once a janitor's son, living on food stamps, borrowing books from the library. He never wore a suit. He never chased the press. He just built something the world needed and refused to corrupt it. And that is how you build something lasting. Not through noise, but through clarity, privacy, and conviction. That's the mindset. That's the legacy. That's how you go from human to hero, one quiet decision at a time. And Jan Koum is not a superhero, he is also a normal starter like you. Sergey Brin, Google. An immigrant with broken English, packed into a tiny apartment. But Sergey Brin believed in something most people didn't. That the internet could change the world. If he didn't think globally, he'd probably be just another anonymous engineer. Instead, he created Google. Sergey Brin is not a superhero. Escaping oppression, born to flee. Sergey Brin was born in 1973, in Moscow, in the Soviet Union. To the world, it looked like a normal place. But for his family, for Jewish families, it was a place of fear, limits, and quiet oppression. Sergey's father, Mikhail Brin, was a brilliant mathematician. His mother, Eugenia, was a researcher in space engineering. Both were highly educated. Both were rejected from top schools and jobs because of one thing: they were Jewish. At the time, Soviet Jews were denied opportunity. They couldn't attend certain universities. They were labeled enemies for applying abroad. They faced daily discrimination, subtle and systemic. Sergey grew up in this reality. A child in a family that was proud, brilliant, but stuck. His father dreamed of freedom. Of a place where his son could study what he wanted. Say what he believed. Live without fear. That dream came with a price. When Sergey was 6, the Brin family applied to emigrate. The government called them traitors. They lost their jobs. Their friends turned away. They were monitored. Harassed. It took years of waiting and paperwork. But in 1979, they finally made it out. The Brins left the Soviet Union with no money, no job offers, and no guarantees. Just one suitcase per person. And a hope that America would give them a second chance. Sergey arrived in the United States as a 6-year-old refugee. He didn't speak English. He didn't understand the culture. He didn't know what the future held. But he knew one thing. His family had risked everything so he could be free. That truth shaped him forever. A new country. A new chance. When Sergey Brin arrived in the United States, he was 6 years old. He didn't speak the language. He didn't understand the culture. He didn't fit in. At school in Maryland, he was just the quiet kid with an accent. The immigrant. The outsider. But it didn't stay that way for long. Sergey was a fast learner. He absorbed English quickly. He read constantly. He loved math, puzzles, and problems no one else wanted to solve. His father, now a math professor at the University of Maryland, encouraged his curiosity. They worked on logic games together. His mother, now an engineer at NASA, taught him discipline and resilience. Sergey had inherited their intellect and their grit. By the time he was a teenager, he was building computer programs for fun. He spent hours on early systems, exploring how they worked. He wasn't interested in flashy tech. He wanted to know how things functioned at the deepest level. He was quiet, thoughtful, and deeply independent. While others chased popularity, Sergey chased truth. His mind was always searching. For patterns. For meaning. For systems beneath the surface. And even as a young boy, he understood something many adults didn't. Freedom isn't just a place. It's the ability to think without fear. To ask big questions. To follow your ideas wherever they lead. That belief would guide him for the rest of his life. Finding his passion in data and truth. Sergey Brin didn't chase business. He didn't dream of being a CEO. He dreamed of understanding complexity. He enrolled at the University of Maryland, where he studied mathematics and computer science. He graduated with honors. But he wasn't done. He wanted more than answers. He wanted insight. So he applied to Stanford to pursue a PhD. At Stanford, Sergey found his element. He was surrounded by people who loved ideas as much as he did. People who challenged assumptions. Who valued thinking deeply, not just moving fast. It was there that he discovered his passion, organizing information. Not just collecting data, but understanding it. Finding relevance in noise. Making knowledge useful. Sergey became obsessed with the structure of the web. He saw the internet not as pages, but as a giant graph of connections. Who links to what? Which pages are trusted? What patterns reveal meaning? He started working on a system that could analyze those connections. Not just keywords, but relationships. Then he met Larry Page. At first, they clashed. Both were brilliant. Both opinionated. Both driven. But slowly, they realized something. They weren't just working on the same problem. They were solving it from opposite angles. Together, they started building a search engine. Not one that guessed, but one that ranked based on trust, structure, and truth. They called it Backrub. It ran on Stanford's servers. It took over campus traffic. And it worked. Professors took notice. Investors were curious. And Sergey realized. This wasn't just a research project. It could be something bigger. Building Google, a garage, a dream, and a lot of code. In 1998, Sergey Brin and Larry Page dropped out of their PhD programs at Stanford. Not because they failed, but because their project was working too well. Backrub had become something bigger. Faster. More accurate. More useful than anything the internet had seen. They renamed it Google. A play on the number Google, one followed by 100 zeros. It symbolized their mission: organize the world's information. They set up office in a rented garage in Menlo Park. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't comfortable. But it was enough. They borrowed money from professors, family, and friends. $100,000 here. $50,000 there. They hired their first employees. And started coding every day, every night. Sergey wasn't the CEO. He was the builder. The system's mind. He handled technical infrastructure, scaling, and security. He wasn't loud. But he was precise. He pushed for elegance in design and truth in data. The early Google homepage was bare. A logo. A box. A button. No ads. No distractions. Just speed and clarity. People loved it. They didn't need instructions. Google worked. It knew what you meant. It got better with every search. By the end of 1999, Google had processed over 500,000 searches per day. By 2000, it was handling over 100 million. And all of it, every search, every ranking, every result, was powered by the belief that information should be open, accessible, and accurate. Sergey wasn't chasing a billion-dollar company. He was chasing a cleaner internet. A smarter web. A way to help people find what truly mattered. And that simple idea built in a garage would soon reshape the world. Staying ethical, staying smart. As Google exploded in popularity, pressure followed. Investors wanted faster growth. Advertisers wanted more access. Executives from other companies warned them. You'll have to compromise eventually. But Sergey Brin didn't believe that. From the beginning, he had insisted on a simple principle. Don't be evil. It wasn't a slogan. It was a shield. A reminder that even with power, you can choose integrity. Even with billions at stake, you can still protect the user. While Larry Page focused on innovation and growth, Sergey focused on values. He resisted invasive advertising. He pushed for transparency in data collection. He stood firm against government pressure to censor search results even when it meant pulling out of certain countries. He helped create the company's internal ethics board. He questioned deals. He warned against shortcuts. Google's culture reflected him. Open offices. Flat hierarchy. 20% time for passion projects. A place where engineers led and ideas mattered more than titles. Sergey believed that smart people work better when they're trusted, not micromanaged. He also believed that companies can grow without losing their soul. As Google expanded, launching Gmail, Maps, News, and more, it stayed fast, creative, and deeply human. Because Sergey Brin was watching. Quietly. Carefully. Holding the line. He once said, "We want to make the world a better place, not just for shareholders, but for users." That mindset wasn't popular on Wall Street. But it earned Google something money couldn't buy. Trust. Innovation never sleeps. For Sergey Brin, search was just the beginning. He didn't want Google to be the best search engine. He wanted it to be the smartest company in the world. That meant pushing into new frontiers, not slowly, but relentlessly. Under his leadership and influence, Google launched Gmail, with more storage and smarter filters than anyone imagined. Google Maps, turning geography into something interactive. Google Translate, breaking language barriers using AI. Chrome, a browser built for speed and simplicity. And Sergey wasn't just observing. He was inside the labs. Meeting with engineers. Reviewing algorithms. Testing early prototypes. His curiosity never stopped. He was fascinated by moonshots, ideas that sounded crazy but had the potential to change everything. He helped launch Google X, the company's secret lab for radical innovation. There, teams worked on self-driving cars, internet balloons, augmented reality glasses, smart contact lenses, renewable energy projects. Sergey didn't lead with spreadsheets. He led with questions. What problem are we solving? What's the simplest possible solution? Does this help humanity? He believed technology wasn't just about convenience, it was about meaning. In 2015, Google reorganized into a new structure, Alphabet. Google became one company. The rest, health, biotech, AI, robotics, became sister companies. Sergey stepped into the role of Alphabet president. Less public. More visionary. He funded research into longevity. Explored cures for rare diseases. Backed deep learning startups before AI became mainstream. He believed the future should be built, not waited for. And he was willing to bet billions on it. Wealth, purpose, and staying low profile. By the late 2010s, Sergey Brin was one of the richest people on Earth. He had more than $100 billion. He could buy anything. Command attention anywhere. But he didn't want it. Unlike other tech billionaires, Sergey avoided the spotlight. He rarely gave interviews. He skipped red carpets. He didn't post about his wealth. He didn't brag. He let his work speak. While others built personal brands, Sergey built impact behind the scenes. He created the Brin-Wojcicki Foundation, focusing on education, global health, and Parkinson's disease research. He donated millions to medical science, including research into a condition that affected his own family. He invested in alternative energy, airships, and space exploration. Not because they were trendy, but because he believed in long-term change. His personal life was quiet, even reserved. He practiced mindfulness, took long bike rides, spent time with his children. And even as a billionaire, he maintained simple routines. He was often seen in casual clothes, riding a scooter, sitting with engineers, listening more than speaking. He once said, "I wanted to work on something that was unbounded, and that would make a difference to a lot of people." That's exactly what he did. And he didn't need applause to know it mattered. How you can think like Sergey Brin. Sergey Brin didn't plan to become a billionaire. He didn't dream of founding a trillion-dollar company. He just wanted to understand the world and help people find what they needed. And that mindset changed everything. You don't need to be born in the right country, or have perfect English, or go to the top schools. You need to think like this. 1. Let curiosity be your compass. Sergey didn't chase money. He chased questions. How does information connect? Why is truth hard to find? How can we make it easier? Ask better questions, and you'll build better things. 2. Start with purpose, not hype. He never built Google to be a brand. He built it to solve a problem. When your purpose is real, people follow. When your mission is clear, ideas grow. Build for meaning, not attention. 3. Stay humble, even when you win. Sergey avoided fame. He didn't seek followers. He stayed focused on the work. Humility isn't weakness. It's power without noise. When you lead quietly, you last longer. 4. Build ethically. Scale responsibly. He insisted that Google serve users, not advertisers. He fought for transparency and choice. Tech has power. Use it wisely. Don't cut corners. Don't lose your soul to grow faster. 5. Be global in mind and heart. Sergey's story started with exile, but it gave him perspective. He thought beyond borders, built tools for every language, invested in solving global problems. Your impact grows when your vision expands. Final thought. Sergey Brin came from a place where truth was censored, where opportunity was denied, where questions were dangerous. He used that pain to fuel purpose, that fear to build freedom, that displacement to design access. And you can too. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to be first. You just need to be clear in your values, your thinking, and your code. The rest will follow. And Sergey Brin is not a superhero. Steve Jobs, Apple. Adopted. Dropped out. Slept on friends' floors. He used to eat free meals at a local temple. No one thought the skinny guy would one day change the world. But Steve Jobs started in a garage with one mindset. Think different. If he hadn't started from zero, there'd be no iPhone today. Steve Jobs wasn't born lucky. Steve Jobs wasn't born rich. He wasn't born into Silicon Valley. And he didn't come from a perfect family. He was born in 1955 in San Francisco. His mother was a college student. His father was a Syrian immigrant. They weren't married. They gave him up for adoption. Steve was adopted by Paul and Clara Jobs, a modest working-class couple. His father was a mechanic. His mother was a bookkeeper. They lived in a small house in Mountain View, California. No wealth. No tech empire. Just an average home with average struggles. But Steve wasn't average. As a child, he was curious. He would take things apart, just to see how they worked. He spent hours in his father's garage learning to build and repair electronics. His father taught him how to work with his hands. More importantly, he taught him to care about craftsmanship. Even the parts people can't see, he said, should be beautiful. That lesson stuck. In school, Steve was smart but difficult. He got bored easily. He challenged teachers. He played pranks. One time, he got suspended for putting explosives under a teacher's chair. He wasn't disciplined. He wasn't obedient. But he was sharp. Restless. Driven. As he grew older, Steve began to explore things most kids didn't. He read about Zen Buddhism. He experimented with diets, fasting, and alternative lifestyles. He walked barefoot on campus. He dropped out of college after just one semester. He had no money. He slept on the floors of friends' dorm rooms. He returned Coke bottles for a few cents to buy food. Every Sunday, he walked across town to the Hare Krishna temple for a free meal. He wasn't chasing wealth. He was chasing something deeper. He wanted to understand life. He wanted to see differently. He wanted to build things that mattered. And even when he had nothing, he never stopped dreaming big. A curious mind with a rebel heart. Steve Jobs was never just a student. He was a questioner. A wanderer. A rebel with too much curiosity. At Homestead High School, he met Steve Wozniak. Wozniak was a shy genius and engineering wizard. Jobs was not an engineer. But he understood people. He saw how technology could change lives. They bonded over pranks and passion. They built blue boxes, illegal devices that let people make free long-distance phone calls. Jobs didn't invent the tech. But he saw how to package it. How to sell it. That pattern would define him for life. After dropping out of college, Jobs stayed on campus. He took only the classes that interested him. Calligraphy. Philosophy. Design. Years later, he would say, "If I had never dropped in on that calligraphy class, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts." He followed his curiosity, not a career path. He believed life was not a straight line. It was about connecting dots looking backward. At 20, Jobs took a spiritual trip to India. He shaved his head. He wore robes. He sought enlightenment. But more than anything, he learned to see the world differently. Simplicity. Clarity. Focus. When he returned, he wasn't interested in climbing a corporate ladder. He wanted to build something from nothing. And he wasn't afraid to break rules to do it. Steve Jobs believed in intuition. In instinct. In walking your own path even when no one else understands. He once said, "Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice." That voice led him to his next big decision. To start a company. With no office. No team. No plan. Just a garage, a friend. And an idea. From garage to global, the start of Apple. It began in a small garage in Los Altos, California. The year was 1976. Steve Jobs was 21. Steve Wozniak was 26. They had no money. No business plan. No employees. Just one shared belief. Computers should be for everyone, not just corporations or scientists. Wozniak had built a personal computer, the Apple I. Jobs saw its potential. He convinced Wozniak to sell it. He talked a local electronics store into buying 50 units. Then he convinced a supplier to give them parts on credit. Jobs didn't build the computer. He built the story. He built the deal. He and Wozniak worked day and night in that garage. Assembling boards. Testing parts. Packing each unit by hand. They named the company Apple. Not because it was technical, but because it was simple, friendly, human. And it worked. The Apple I sold. Then they built Apple II, a fully assembled, color-capable personal computer. It was a breakthrough. Schools loved it. Families loved it. By 1980, Apple went public. It was one of the most successful IPOs in history. Steve Jobs, at age 25, was worth over $100 million. But that wasn't what excited him. He wasn't chasing wealth. He was chasing the future. He wanted to create tools that empowered people. He wanted to put technology in the hands of everyone. And he believed in doing it with beauty and simplicity. Apple became known not just for products, but for philosophy. Design mattered. Experience mattered. Every curve, every click, every box it shipped in, it all had to feel right. Because Steve believed. People who are serious about software should make their own hardware. Apple wasn't just a company. It was a revolution. Built by two young men. From a garage. From nothing. And that was just the beginning. Fired from his own company. By the early 1980s, Steve Jobs was a celebrity. He had money. He had power. He had created one of the fastest growing companies in America. But behind the scenes, things weren't smooth. Jobs was brilliant. But he was also demanding. Stubborn. Sometimes harsh. He pushed people hard. He wanted perfection in every pixel, every screw, every word. Not everyone could handle it. When Apple launched the Macintosh in 1984, it was a breakthrough. Beautiful. User-friendly. Visionary. But it was also expensive. And sales were slower than expected. Jobs clashed with the CEO he had helped bring in, John Sculley. They disagreed on the future of Apple. On the Mac. On Steve's role. And then it happened. In 1985, the board of Apple voted to remove him from his own company. Steve Jobs, the founder, was fired. He was 30 years old. Rich. Famous. And suddenly, lost. He later said, "It was devastating. I felt like I had been publicly rejected." For the first time in his life, he had no plan. No team. No next big thing. He wandered. He traveled. He thought. And then something unexpected happened. He realized this. I still loved what I did. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. So he started over. Not with revenge, but with clarity. Being fired from Apple became the best thing that ever happened to him. It freed him to think again. To build again. To become better. Because sometimes, losing everything is what lets you rediscover who you really are. Failure, learning, and the road back. After Apple, Steve Jobs disappeared from the spotlight. But he didn't stop working. In 1985, he started a new company called Next. It was supposed to build the future of computing. He invested tens of millions of his own money. He hired brilliant engineers. He demanded excellence in design, inside and out. The result? A beautiful, powerful, but overpriced machine. Next didn't sell well. The company lost money. It looked like failure. But what Jobs built at Next, the software, the philosophy, the attention to detail, would later become the foundation of Apple's future. At the same time, he made another move. He bought a small animation studio from George Lucas. It was called Pixar. Most people thought it was a toy. Jobs saw something else. He poured money into it. He believed in its artists. He waited 4 years, with no return. Then came Toy Story. It was the world's first fully computer-animated movie. It changed animation forever. And made Pixar a global success. When Pixar went public, Jobs became a billionaire again, but in a completely different industry. More importantly, he had changed. He was still intense. Still demanding. But deeper. Wiser. More aware of people, not just product. And then, something unexpected happened. In 1996, Apple was failing. Its products were scattered. Its identity unclear. The company that Steve Jobs started was losing direction. Apple decided to buy Next, not just for its software, but for Steve. And just like that, he was back. But this time, he wasn't just the founder. He was the one who had failed. Learned. Grown. And now, he had a second chance. The comeback was about to begin. Simplicity, vision, and obsession. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, the company was broken. Its products were confusing. Its strategy unclear. Its future uncertain. Jobs went to work. He cut product lines. Fired managers. Simplified everything. He believed that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. He didn't ask, what features can we add? He asked, what can we remove? Jobs wasn't trying to make Apple big again. He was trying to make it great again. And it started with design. Not just how it looked, but how it worked. How it felt. How it fit into your life. He said, design is not just what it looks like. Design is how it works. Under his leadership, Apple launched the iMac, bold, colorful, all-in-one. iPod. 1000 songs in your pocket. iTunes, a revolution in how we buy music. The iPhone, the most important tech product of its time. The iPad, a new category of personal device. Each product wasn't just innovative. It was intuitive. Jobs obsessed over every detail. He rewrote ad scripts. Refused to ship until the color was right. Demanded silence in meetings if people weren't thinking clearly. People called him difficult. But he believed. Real artists ship. It wasn't about ego. It was about excellence. He wanted to build products that people didn't just use, but loved. And it worked. Apple went from near bankruptcy to the most valuable company in the world. Because one man refused to accept average. He believed in focus. In vision. In saying no. He once said, I'm as proud of the things we haven't done as the things we have. That mindset of clarity, obsession, and courage shaped everything Apple created. It wasn't just technology. It was an extension of Steve Jobs himself. The billionaire who slept on the floor. Steve Jobs became one of the richest men in the world. But he never lived like it. He didn't own a mansion filled with gold. He didn't collect cars or luxury watches. For years, he lived in a nearly empty house. He slept on the floor. He walked barefoot. He ate simple, often vegan meals. He drove the same car for years, without a license plate. Jobs wasn't poor. He was intentional. He believed that clutter in your home, your mind, your product was the enemy of focus. He once said, "I'm convinced that about half of what separates successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance. And perseverance requires clarity." Steve didn't want distractions. He wanted to build, to think, to make something great. Even when Apple was rising again, he didn't chase status. He chased meaning. He wore the same outfit every day, black turtleneck, jeans, sneakers. Not as a fashion statement, but to remove one more decision from his life. His focus was always on the work. When asked why he never gave up control of Apple's design, he said, "Because I care." It was never about money. It was about making something that mattered. He once told a story. "When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, 'If you live each day as if it were your last, someday you'll most certainly be right.' That quote stayed with him. Every day, he asked, 'If today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do?' If the answer was no for too many days in a row, he knew something had to change." Jobs lived as if time was limited. And in the end, it was. But that's what gave his work urgency. That's what gave his life depth. He never stopped being the kid who questioned everything. He never stopped thinking like an underdog. Even at the top, he never stopped acting like he had nothing to lose. How you can think like Jobs and build from zero. Steve Jobs didn't have a perfect childhood. He wasn't the most disciplined student. He didn't finish college. He started from nothing. And yet, he built one of the most valuable companies in the world. So how did he do it? And more importantly, what can you learn from him? Here are the lessons. 1. Stay curious. Jobs never stopped asking questions. He explored calligraphy, philosophy, electronics, design. Even when it didn't seem useful. But years later, all the dots connected. He once said, "You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward." So explore. Follow your interests. Trust that they'll matter later. 2. Love what you do. Jobs believed passion fuels persistence. He said, "People with passion can change the world for the better. Building something great is hard. If you don't love it, you'll quit. So find the thing that makes you forget the time. And give it everything." 3. Focus deeply. Jobs was ruthless about focus. He eliminated distractions. Cut product lines. Said no to good ideas so he could say yes to great ones. You don't need more time. You need more focus. 4. Embrace simplicity. Jobs believed simplicity is power. He stripped products down to their essence. Made them beautiful. Intuitive. Human. In life and in work, simplify. Say less. Do less. But do it better. 5. Think different. Jobs wasn't afraid to be misunderstood. To take risks. To challenge what people believed was possible. He said, "The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. So don't wait for approval. Start now. Start messy. But start." Final thought. Steve Jobs came from nothing. He got fired. He failed. He started over. And he kept going. Not because he was fearless, but because he believed in what he was building. You don't need to be Steve Jobs. You just need to think like he did. Stay curious. Love the craft. Focus intensely. Simplify everything. And dare to think differently. That's how you start from zero and build something unforgettable. Larry Ellison, Oracle. Larry was abandoned by his mother, raised in a rough Chicago neighborhood. His life was pure survival, teaching himself to code, fighting for every step. Without a warrior mindset, he would have been crushed by life. But he chose to win and built Oracle, a global tech empire. Larry Ellison is not a superhero. Abandoned, sick, and raised by strangers. Larry Ellison wasn't born into wealth, or even stability. He was born into rejection. In 1944, he came into the world in the Bronx, New York City. His mother was just 19 years old, unmarried, overwhelmed, and alone. His biological father was a pilot who left as soon as he knew she was pregnant. Larry never knew him. At just 9 months old, Larry developed a severe case of pneumonia. His mother, desperate and scared, made a life-altering decision. She handed her infant son to her aunt and uncle in Chicago. Larry would not see his birth mother again for nearly 5 decades. He was raised by his Aunt Lillian, kind, protective, and emotionally supportive. But his adoptive father, Louis Ellison, was the opposite. He was cold, distant, and emotionally harsh. He worked as a government clerk, never earned much, and lost what little he had in bad investments. He told Larry, over and over, "You'll never amount to anything. You're a loser. You're wasting your time." Larry remembered those words. He didn't forget them. He didn't forgive them. But he used them. In school, Larry was intelligent but restless. He had no interest in following rules. No patience for subjects that didn't spark his curiosity. He challenged authority. He pushed boundaries. But behind the rebellion was a boy with something to prove. A boy who had been given away. A boy who was told he was nothing. A boy who decided, one day, they'll all be wrong. Larry didn't have a perfect family. He didn't have money. He didn't even have encouragement. But he had defiance. He had fire. And that would be enough to get started. A young rebel with no direction. As Larry grew older, his defiance didn't fade. It deepened. He wasn't the kind of student teachers praised. He was smart, incredibly smart, but uninterested. He couldn't stand rigid rules or meaningless tasks. He enrolled at the University of Illinois. He was good at math, science, and logic. But in his sophomore year, his adoptive mother, the only person who truly believed in him, died. It broke him. He dropped out. He tried again at the University of Chicago. Lasted 1 semester. Dropped out again. Most people would have given up. But Larry wasn't most people. He moved to Berkeley, California. Lived in a cheap apartment. Did odd jobs. He worked as a technician. A delivery guy. A construction worker. He had no degree. No plan. No connections. But he had curiosity. Larry taught himself computer programming not in school, but from manuals, from trial and error. From watching smarter people work. He read technical books like other people read novels. And he started to see something. Companies didn't need people with degrees. They needed people who could solve problems. So he did. He learned databases. He learned systems. He became the go-to guy for hard problems. But inside, something was still boiling. He wasn't content just being a good employee. He wanted more. He wanted control. He wanted to build something of his own. Because deep down, he was still that boy from Chicago. The one who had been told he'd never amount to anything. And every line of code, every new system, every late night was another way to prove that voice wrong. Learning by doing, not in school. Larry Ellison wasn't built by college. He was built by work. Real work. Hard work. Work that didn't come with applause or titles, but with skills. Throughout his 20s, he bounced between tech jobs. Not prestigious roles. But ones where he could observe, learn, and build. He worked at places like Ambil Corporation and Ampex. At Ampex, He worked on a project for the CIA. The project was called Oracle. It was a system designed to manage massive amounts of data for intelligence agencies. Larry wasn't the architect. He didn't invent databases. But he saw something. The software was complex, outdated, expensive. What if he could make it simpler? Faster? Better? The idea stuck in his mind. At night, he would sketch out models. During the day, he watched what didn't work. He wasn't just coding anymore, he was thinking like a strategist. By his mid-30s, he had built a reputation. He was the programmer you called when something was broken. He didn't always follow protocol. But he delivered results. Still, he was frustrated. He worked for people less capable than him. He followed decisions he didn't respect. He hated bureaucracy. He hated being told no. And so, he made a choice. He would stop working for others. He would start something of his own. Even if no one believed in him. Even if he had to build it from scratch. Because he knew something most people didn't. You don't need permission to change the game. You just need the nerve to play it your way. Starting Oracle, with no investors, no trust. In 1977, Larry Ellison was 33 years old. He wasn't famous. He wasn't rich. And he wasn't backed by investors. But he had an idea. A bold one. He wanted to build a database software company, simple, scalable, and based on a language called SQL. Which most companies hadn't even adopted yet. He partnered with two colleagues, Bob Miner and Ed Oates. Together, they formed a company called Software Development Laboratories. They didn't start in a glass office tower. They worked out of borrowed space. They paid themselves almost nothing. They lived cheap and worked non-stop. No one trusted them. No one funded them. They were outsiders. But Larry didn't care. He renamed the company Oracle, a nod to the CIA project he once worked on. They pitched the software to the government, to companies. Most said no. Some laughed. But a few said yes. Their first real contract was tiny. Just a few $1,000s. But it was enough to keep going. Larry didn't have charm. He had intensity. He didn't make excuses. He made demands. He wrote code. He did sales. He handled marketing. He created technical documentation himself because no one else would. He knew the product wasn't perfect. But it was better than the rest. And he believed that speed, not perfection, would win the race. Oracle began to grow. Not smoothly. Not quickly. But steadily. And through every pitch, every line of code, every rejection, Larry was building something more powerful than software. He was building belief. In himself. In his vision. In a world where he could prove them all wrong. Risk, crisis, and the edge of collapse. Success brings momentum. But it also brings danger. By the mid-1980s, Oracle was growing fast. Too fast. Larry pushed for aggressive expansion. He believed in speed over safety. In taking markets before competitors could catch up. Revenue soared. Headcount tripled. Oracle opened offices in dozens of cities. But behind the scenes, something was breaking. In an effort to show growth, Oracle began recognizing revenue before contracts were signed. Salespeople pushed deals to close faster. Accounting blurred the lines. It worked for a while. Then reality hit. In 1990, Oracle missed earnings. Badly. Investors panicked. The stock price crashed. The company lost almost half its value overnight. Worse, it was discovered that Oracle had overstated earnings by tens of millions. The company was under investigation. Shareholders filed lawsuits. cash was running out. Larry Ellison was called reckless, arrogant. Some said Oracle was finished. But he didn't run. He didn't hide. He faced it. He brought in a new CFO. He fired dozens of top managers. He cut staff. He restructured the entire company. He admitted the mistakes. He took the blame. And then, he rebuilt. It wasn't just a financial crisis. It was a personal turning point. Larry learned what most entrepreneurs learn too late. Growth means nothing without control. Speed is dangerous without discipline. Winning is easy, surviving is the real game. Oracle barely made it. But it did. And from that near-death experience, it came back stronger. Because sometimes, the edge of collapse is the beginning of clarity. Obsession, control, and the rise of Oracle. After surviving near collapse, Larry Ellison changed. Not who he was, but how he led. He became sharper, more disciplined, more demanding. He rebuilt Oracle with a new mindset. Control everything. Master the details. Never let chaos sneak back in. Larry reviewed product demos personally. He grilled engineers in meetings. He made executives defend every dollar they spent. He didn't delegate trust. He earned it and expected others to do the same. This obsession turned Oracle into a machine. While others focused on flashy products, Oracle focused on enterprise clients, governments, banks, corporations. They didn't want trendy software. They wanted systems that worked. Fast, reliable, scalable databases. Oracle delivered. The company developed the first relational database to run on multiple platforms. It became the backbone of global business infrastructure. Larry positioned Oracle not as a product company, but as a mission-critical partner. When IBM became the main rival, Larry didn't flinch. He launched bold ad campaigns. "We will bury IBM. Oracle is the database standard." He backed those words with results. Oracle gained market share year after year. Its software powered airlines, hospitals, militaries. Its reach was global. Its influence undeniable. By the late 1990s, Oracle was one of the most powerful software companies in the world. And Larry Ellison was no longer an outsider. He was a billionaire. A boardroom warrior. A symbol of relentless ambition. But he hadn't changed inside. He was still the kid from Chicago. Still fighting to prove himself. Still refusing to be told what he couldn't do. His obsession wasn't with money. It was with control. Precision. Dominance. And that mindset, no matter how controversial, built an empire. The billionaire pirate, lifestyle and mindset. Larry Ellison didn't just build a software empire. He built a legend. He became known not just for Oracle, but for how he lived. He bought a $100 million yacht. A fighter jet. Several private jets. A Hawaiian island. He dressed like a rock star. Wore leather jackets. Drove fast cars. Dated models and celebrities. To the media, he was a billionaire playboy. Flashy. Arrogant. Untouchable. But behind the flash, there was something deeper. Larry worked 12 to 14 hours a day. He read every major product report. He grilled every VP. He challenged engineers on architecture and performance. Even at the top, he remained hands-on. His wealth didn't make him lazy. It made him more intense. He believed that success was war. That business was combat. That only the strong, the relentless, survived. He said, "You have to act and act now. Oracle does not wait for anyone." And Oracle kept winning. Even as Microsoft rose. Even as Google and Amazon dominated consumer tech. Oracle thrived by owning the backend, the databases, the servers, the enterprise cloud. Larry didn't care if his name wasn't in every household. He cared that his software ran their banks, their governments, their infrastructure. His mindset was clear. Think big. Move fast. Never surrender. Don't apologize for wanting to win. Some called him ruthless. Some called him a genius. He didn't care what they called him as long as they couldn't ignore him. Because Larry Ellison wasn't just rich. He was relevant. And that, to him, mattered more. How you can think like Larry Ellison. You may never own an island. You may never fly a fighter jet. But you can learn to think like Larry Ellison. And that thinking can change everything. Here's how. 1. Use doubt as fuel. Larry Ellison grew up hearing, "You'll never succeed." Instead of letting it crush him, he used it. He turned every insult into energy. Every rejection into resolve. So when people doubt you, don't shrink. Fuel up. Let it drive you, not define you. 2. Learn by doing. He didn't finish college. But he became one of the greatest technical minds in enterprise software. He learned on the job. By reading manuals. By solving real problems. By making real mistakes. You don't need a perfect resume. You need persistence, curiosity, and action. 3. Don't wait for permission. Larry didn't wait for a company to hire him to build something. He didn't wait for investors to believe in him. He started. With nothing. You don't need someone to say yes. You just need to say it to yourself. 4. Obsess over the product. He didn't just lead Oracle, he lived inside it. He knew the code. The customers. The competitors. That kind of obsession isn't extra. It's essential. Be the one who knows your craft better than anyone else. 5. Take risks, own the results. He expanded too fast. Made accounting mistakes. Almost lost everything. But he owned it. Fixed it. Learned from it. Success isn't avoiding risk. It's recovering stronger. 6. Lead with fire. Ellison didn't become a billionaire by playing it safe. He was bold. Brash. Unapologetically competitive. If you want to stand out, don't aim to fit in. Stand firm. Speak up. Move forward. Final thought. Larry Ellison wasn't the smartest. Or the richest. Or the most supported. But he was the one who didn't quit. Didn't wait. Didn't settle. He came from nothing. And he built one of the most powerful software empires on Earth. So can you. Start with what you have. Ignore the noise. Build with focus. And never, ever back down. And Larry Ellison is not a superhero. Elon Musk, Tesla, SpaceX. Bullied as a kid. Left South Africa with debt and a dream. He slept on office couches, ate instant noodles. If he didn't dare to dream big, he'd be no different from millions struggling every day. But Elon Musk aimed for space. And today, he's the richest man in the world. Elon Musk isn't a superhero, and that's the point. Have you ever looked at someone like Elon Musk and thought, this guy must be a genius? A different species. I could never be like that. Let me stop you right there. Because here's the truth, Elon Musk is not a superhero. He wasn't born with superpowers, and he definitely didn't grow up rich and famous. In fact, he was a quiet, skinny kid from South Africa who got bullied so badly in school that he was once thrown down the stairs and had to go to the hospital. He spent most of his time alone, reading science fiction, playing video games, and diving deep into books, not hanging out with cool friends or being the popular kid. And yet, the same guy grew up to build rockets, electric cars, brain interfaces. and became one of the richest people on the planet. So what happened? What changed? It wasn't luck. It wasn't a secret cheat code. It was the way he thought. The way he asked questions. The way he believed that even the craziest dreams are possible if you start acting on them. That's what this video is about. Not about worshipping Elon Musk, but about learning something from him, something that you and I can actually apply in our lives. Because if someone who got rejected, laughed at, and nearly lost everything more than once can go on to change the world, then maybe, just maybe, you can change your own life too. Early failures, getting rejected, laughed at. He left South Africa alone with barely any money and moved to Canada. He worked odd jobs like shoveling dirt, cleaning out boiler rooms, and even working on a farm just to survive. He was just trying to get by, like a lot of us. Years later, with his brother Kimball, he started his first company, Zip2. They literally slept on beanbags in the office. Couldn't afford rent. Showered at the local YMCA. Worked day and night to make something out of nothing. And when Zip2 finally got big enough to be noticed, Elon got pushed aside. He was removed as CEO of his own company. But he didn't stop. He used that money to start another company called X.com, one of the first online banks in the world. You know it today as PayPal. Guess what? He got kicked out again. While on his honeymoon, the board voted him out and replaced him. Imagine that. Twice he built something, and twice they took it from him. He could have given up. He could have said, maybe I'm not meant to lead. He could have played it safe, invested his money, and lived a quiet life. But Elon didn't stop there. He didn't just invest a little, he went all in. At one point, both companies were about to die. Tesla couldn't build cars fast enough. SpaceX had failed 3 rocket launches in a row. And Elon? He was sleeping on a couch in Tesla's office. No house. No vacations. Just problems, pressure, and debt. He once said, "I thought I was going to die." Literally. It was the worst year of my life. But guess what? He kept going. One more try. One more launch. One more fight. And on Christmas Eve, 2008, SpaceX finally succeeded. They launched a rocket into orbit, and NASA called. That phone call saved SpaceX from dying. Speech balloon. You see, people only see Elon Musk now, the billionaire. But they don't see the guy who got rejected by Netscape, who was laughed at by investors, who slept in a warehouse to build a dream. And that's the point. You don't need a perfect background. You don't need to be chosen. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to keep going when others stop. Because everyone starts somewhere. And so can you. The mindset shift, first principles thinking. So, what made Elon different? It wasn't luck. It wasn't connections. And it definitely wasn't playing it safe. It was his mindset. His way of thinking. Elon Musk doesn't just follow trends or copy what others are doing. He breaks problems down to their core and rebuilds from the ground up. It's called first principles thinking. Sounds fancy, but it's actually very simple. Instead of asking, "What's everyone else doing?" he asks, "What are the facts? What are the most basic truths about this problem? If I had to start from scratch, what would I do?" Let's look at a real example. When Elon wanted to build electric cars, everyone told him, "It's too expensive. The batteries cost too much." Most people accepted that. They gave up. But Elon didn't. He said, "Wait, what is a battery actually made of?" So he broke it down. Lithium, nickel, cobalt, aluminum. Then he looked up the raw prices of those materials. And guess what? They were actually not that expensive. The high cost of batteries was just how people were doing it, not what it actually cost. So Elon built Tesla, rethought the battery design, and made it cheaper from the inside out. That's first principles thinking. And this wasn't a one-time thing. He used the same thinking when building SpaceX. At the time, buying a rocket from another company would cost over $60 million. But instead of buying one, Elon asked, "What is a rocket made of?" Answer: aluminum, titanium, carbon fiber. Few things you can buy for way less. So he built the rockets himself. Literally. From scratch. And brought the cost down by 10x. Why does this matter to you? Because you can use this thinking in your own life. Maybe not to build a rocket, but to build your path forward. Instead of thinking, everyone says it's hard to get rich. It takes luck. I need connections. Ask yourself, what are the real building blocks of success? What skills can I build for free? What's really holding me back and what's just an excuse? This mindset frees you. It gives you power. You stop being a follower. And you start becoming a builder. Here's a challenge for today. Think of a problem in your life. Now ask, what's the real issue underneath? If I forgot how everyone else solves it, what would I do? That's how Elon Musk thinks. And that's how you can start thinking like a hero in the making. Crazy goals, but real action. Let's be honest. Some of Elon Musk's goals sound absolutely crazy. Colonize Mars. Eliminate fossil fuel cars. Connect the human brain to AI. Build a tunnel system under cities. Launch satellites to beam internet everywhere on Earth. If anyone else said this, you'd probably roll your eyes. But Elon? He doesn't just say it. He starts building it. That's the difference. You can have the craziest dream in the world. But if you don't act on it, it's just a fantasy. Let's break it down. Going to Mars, SpaceX. When Elon started SpaceX, people laughed. They said, only governments launch rockets. You're going to die trying. You're not a rocket scientist. And they were right, he wasn't. He read books. Talked to engineers. Taught himself everything. The first 3 rocket launches failed. His money? Gone. His company? Almost dead. But he didn't stop. The 4th launch worked. And suddenly, NASA picked up the phone. Today, SpaceX launches more rockets than anyone else on Earth and is building the system to send people to Mars. Insane? Maybe. But not impossible. Replacing gas cars, Tesla. Back in the early 2000s, electric cars were a joke. Slow, ugly, expensive. No one wanted them. Elon wanted to build a fast, cool, all-electric car. People said, it's impossible. You'll go bankrupt. No one wants that. But Elon went all in. Redesigned the battery. Rebuilt the supply chain. Rethought how a car should feel and drive. Today, Tesla isn't just an electric car company. It's the most valuable car company in the world. Merging brain and AI, Neuralink. This one sounds straight out of a sci-fi movie. But Elon believes the future of humanity depends on how we merge with technology. So he started Neuralink, a company building brain-computer interfaces. They've already tested the chip on animals. And in 2024, it's entering human trials. Not for fun, but to help people with paralysis move again. And eventually, to let us communicate directly with machines. Sounds crazy. But it's real. So what's the point? Elon doesn't wait until everything is perfect. He doesn't need permission. He just starts. He sets giant goals and then asks, What's the first small step I can take today? That's what makes him powerful. Not just the big dreams, but the ability to act on them. What can you learn from this? You don't need to build rockets. You don't need to change the world overnight. But you can start by dreaming a little bigger, taking action a little faster, being a little braver than yesterday. Because the only difference between a crazy idea and a world-changing idea is what you do next. How Elon learns: fast, deep, ruthless. Elon Musk never went to rocket school. He didn't major in aerospace. He wasn't an engineer by degree. So how did he build the most advanced rockets in the world? Simple. He taught himself. When Elon wanted to understand rockets, he read textbooks, not blog posts. When he wanted to build electric cars, he studied battery chemistry and supply chains. When he wanted to create brain chips, he dug into neuroscience papers. He didn't say, "I'll hire someone to know this for me." He said, "I'll know enough to ask the right questions." What does this mean? Elon has what experts call a learning transfer mindset. That means he doesn't just learn facts, he learns patterns, models, and core ideas from one field and applies them in others. I think most people can learn a lot more than they think they can. They just sell themselves short. Here's how he learns, and how you can too. 1. Read like a builder. Elon reads to create, not just consume. He once read 2 books a day as a child. Now he reads to solve real problems. Tip: don't just highlight quotes. Ask, how can I use this tomorrow? 2. Deconstruct skills. When Elon learns something, he breaks it down like a machine. What are the parts? How do they work together? Which parts are weak? Then he rebuilds from the ground up better. Example: he didn't just study rockets. He studied fuel flow, thermal resistance, stage separation, and more. You don't need to be Elon. But you can ask, what's the structure of what I'm trying to learn? 3. Use learning loops. Elon asks, tests, fails, and repeats. He builds feedback loops into his learning. Learn. Try. Fail. Learn again. That's why he improves faster than most people. Why does this matter to you? Because most people wait until they feel ready. Until they have a degree. Until they get permission. But Elon's approach is: learn what you need. Apply it now. Fix it as you go. It's not about being perfect. It's about moving forward while learning. Quick tip for your own growth. Pick one thing you've been wanting to learn, maybe copywriting, coding, AI, finance. He doesn't just accept what he's told. He questions everything. I think it's important to reason from first principles rather than by analogy. In other words, don't copy. Don't assume. Ask, what's really true? Let's look at how Elon uses questions. When others say, "That's how it's always been done," Elon says, "Why?" When experts say, "That's not possible," Elon asks, "What would have to be true for it to be possible?" When a supplier tells him a part costs $10,000, he asks, "What is it made of? What does it actually cost to build?" By asking better questions, Elon unlocks answers other people can't even see. Real example: Starship rocket. Most rockets are built to launch once and crash into the ocean. Billions of dollars gone after one use. Elon asked, "Why can't we reuse rockets like airplanes?" People laughed. But today, SpaceX rockets land themselves, get reused, and save hundreds of millions. All because he dared to ask a better question. Another example: building a factory. When Tesla was behind on production, engineers tried to add more people. Elon walked in and asked, What if we just removed that entire step? Why do we even need this machine? Turns out they didn't. That one question saved time, money, and space. So how do you apply this? Start replacing statements with questions. Instead of, "I'm not good at this," ask, "What part of this don't I understand yet?" Instead of, "This is too expensive," ask, "What is this actually made of? Can I do it cheaper?" Instead of, "I'll never be like them," ask, "What habits or thinking got them there, and can I try one today?" Quick habit. The YX5 rule. Whenever you feel stuck, ask why 5 times. Example. I feel lazy. Why? Because I'm tired. Why? I didn't sleep well. Why? I stayed up watching Netflix. Why? I was avoiding work. Why? I'm scared of failing. See? Now you know the real issue. Final thought. Most people live on autopilot. Elon doesn't. He questions everything, including himself. You don't need to build rockets. But if you can learn to ask just one better question every day, you'll be miles ahead of most people. That's Musk's real secret weapon. And it can be your superpower too. How you can apply this mindset. By now, you've heard the stories, the failures, the first principles, the crazy goals, the relentless learning, the powerful questions. But this isn't about Elon Musk anymore. It's about you. Because if you're watching this, chances are you've got goals, you've got ideas, and maybe you feel stuck. Not because you're not smart. Not because you're not capable, but because you don't know where to start. Let's fix that with action. Here's a simple framework you can use today, inspired by Elon's way of thinking. Step 1. Define your crazy dream. What's something you want but are afraid to say out loud? Start a business? Become financially free? Build something new? Leave your current job? Write it down. Make it clear. Own it. Elon didn't whisper, "Maybe I want to try building a small rocket." He said, "I want to send people to Mars." Step 2. Break it down like an engineer. Now take that big goal and ask, what are the building blocks? What do I actually need? What's the first small step I could take? Want to build an app? Start by sketching it on paper. Want to start a YouTube channel? Record something today on your phone. Want to change careers? Learn one new skill this week. You don't need to build everything at once. You just need to start. Step 3. Learn like Elon. Don't wait for a course. Don't wait for someone to teach you. Google it. YouTube it. Read it. Try it. Example: Elon learned rocket science by reading textbooks and asking engineers questions. You can learn anything. Literally. Anything. All it takes is the will to start. Step 4. Ask yourself better questions. Replace fear with curiosity. Instead of saying, "I'll never figure this out," ask, "What don't I understand yet, and where can I go learn it?" Instead of, "This is impossible," ask, "Has anyone done something similar? What did they try?" That's how Elon finds opportunities others miss. And so can you. Step 5. Take small, consistent action. Elon didn't build Tesla in a weekend. He just kept showing up even when things sucked. You don't need massive moves. You need movement. 10 minutes a day learning a skill. One decision a day that makes you uncomfortable. One question a day that challenges how you think. That's how transformation happens. Final reminder. You don't have to be Elon Musk. But you can think a little deeper. Ask a little better. Learn a little faster. And act a little bolder. That's how you go from stuck to unstoppable. You're not Elon, and that's the point. Let's be clear. You're not Elon Musk. And you don't have to be. You weren't born in South Africa. You didn't build PayPal. You're not sending rockets into space. But here's the truth. Elon Musk started with nothing that you don't have the ability to build. He had curiosity, courage to try, discipline to keep going, the belief that thinking differently was worth it. And guess what? You have all of that inside you too. Maybe your dream isn't Mars. Maybe it's to get out of debt. Maybe it's to start a business, help your family, or finally believe in yourself again. Whatever it is, that dream matters. And if there's one thing Elon Musk shows us, it's this. You don't have to be perfect to make progress. He failed. He got laughed at. He made massive mistakes. But he never gave up. He kept learning. Kept questioning. Kept building. So can you. Here's your challenge. Before today ends, take one step. Small, simple, but real. Write your crazy dream down. Ask yourself, what's the first 5-minute action I can take? And then, actually do it. Because your life doesn't change all at once. It changes with one brave decision at a time. Final words. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to be fearless. You don't even need to know how yet. You just need to start. If this video inspired you, here's what I ask. Like the video. Share it with one person who needs to hear it. And subscribe so we can grow together on this journey from human to hero. This isn't about Elon Musk anymore. This is about you. And your story is just getting started. 5 people. 5 tough beginnings. But one thing in common. Mindset made the difference. If you still believe that poverty is fate, you might be ignoring something far more powerful than money. The way you think. So now, the real question is, which side will you choose?